Hello and welcome back to the channel where we are building a video game from scratch using Love2d and Lua. We're working on our inventory system here, so we do have where if we hit start, we pull up a mock-up of what our inventory is going to look like. So we made this mock-up yesterday, and today we're going to be trying to add some feedback. So I did some thinking last night, and I think we need to change... I think I do like the idea of having the A button be a dedicated spell slot and the B button being a dedicated items slot. Because I want to prioritize like ease of changing items. So it's like twofolds. It's easier to change items, so if you want to change your spell, it'll be pretty easy than pulling up your list, cycling through, finding the element, clicking A, going down here, assigning it, and then placing whatever used to be assigned there in an empty spot, and then hit start. Instead, the flow is supposed to be like, you hit start, which pulls up the menu. You can hit B to toggle your elements. So like, by default, it'll go to your items over here if you want to switch an item. Then if you hit B, it'll come over here and allow you to select either a different tunic, a different tome, or a different spell element. So if you wanted to switch elements, I'm thinking it'll be start and then B to come over here, and it'll give you a blinky cursor here that you can go to the right one if you want the ice one or whatever. Then you hit A to select it, and then it'll automatically take what was in your spell slot and reassign it to this one. And then the same with your items slot, where let's say we wanted this thing of berries maybe right here. We would move our cursor, so it's like a little blinky cursor. We go like over, down, down. And then when we hit A on this, it'll automatically put it in our item slot. And if there was something equipped in our item slot, it'll put the item that we did have equipped where that item was. So that, like, basically what I'm trying to avoid is any complexity of like, okay, well, we have an item, but now we're holding a different item because we're switching it, and then we have to move up here to an empty spot and then place it, and then we can continue on. I want it to be fast, right? So like, it's like, oh, I want seeds. Bing, bing, boom, hit seeds, and then you've got seeds on there. And then you're like, oh, I want that other thing back. Bing, bing, boom, get your other thing back. So I think I like that idea of spells being dedicated to A, and then that way also you shouldn't be able to cast to dual wield spells. That just isn't a thing right now. Maybe, you know, we'll see what ideas we get for spells, and maybe that'll be in the future, but right now let me quickly remake this because it's bugging me that this A and B is on the wrong side. So we'll put them on the correct side here. And then another thing I want to do... Oh God. I think another thing I want to do for this is maybe map out what was I gonna say? Like, there's gonna be a sort of cursor, right, to select the items and spells. So we have to figure out what that looks like, but also I don't know what I was thinking. There was one more thing I was thinking about doing. Let's just do this for now. Okay, so now we got A and B in their correct spots. I think what I was thinking of is I'll make a new layer here. So the idea here is we need to decide on a grid size for our items. So maybe there's you know, if this is a grid, we could think of it like a 3x4 or something like this. You know? So if this is a grid, we could think of it like a 3x4. And if we hit B, it'll toggle the key items, which depends on how many you have unlocked, because you can't, you know, at the beginning of the game, you know, you'll start off with maybe once you get a tunic, you might as well wear one to get one of the powers. So like, I don't know if the brown tunic will be or maybe you could deselect any tunic to get the default. But so here we have a 4x4. No, 4x3. And then this is a 4x3 and a 3x4. But this grid is going to be different because you're not going to have this many things until the end of the game. So for the beginning and early on, it's going to be really simple. Like, you're going to have, you know, maybe 1 or 2 spells to choose from, maybe 1 or 2 different tunics to choose from. But if our tunics were to clog up our main satchel item inventory, I think it would get messy. So I kind of like this idea of, like, we have little key items over here and two basic inventory systems. So it's like which spell you want. Oh, the other thing I was thinking of is, like, maybe we have a shape on our A slot. I was thinking, like, you know, if we have a circle like this. Oh god, it looks so bad. Let me try to make a real one like this. Okay, so if we have a filled in rectangle here, and we make it almost like an imprint. So this would be like kind of like signifier to be like, hey, circle shaped things go in here. If you don't have any equipped, it's like an empty slot. But then, for example, like once you get here, let's see. Like, let's say we wanted to equip the fire element, then we would have a fire element placed in the slot there, right? So we can kind of like, it's just like a shape, kind of like an imprint, like a, I don't know what to call it other than like an imprint, to kind of signify like, hey, whatever you select up here is the one that goes here, and that's your spell casting, and then anything else can fill the item slot. So I think I like something like that. God, it's so bad. This is just placeholder art. Okay. So yeah, something like that, where it's like, it's pretty clear, like only circle shaped things kind of go in there. And it'll be clear once you have elements that you put in there. So we need to build out a way to sort of select the different grids, which I messed up here. Let me copy this. I'm going to copy the imprint to put it on the right layer so that we can export this. Okay, let's export this. So I think the tricky thing about this is going to be like, let's say we make a class of item inventory, and we can give it the X positions of all of these locations, right? So like we have a box height and width, as well as a column and a row. So we would be able to say, okay, well, we've got this item. We know every X, every row has got an X position, every column has got a Y position. Therefore, we can track where to render certain items and whether or not certain items are in certain slots. I think what's confusing to me is if like how complicated the management would be, because right now we don't. If we go about the route where, let's say this is a bag of rice or whatever, and we click on it and it goes to our item slot, there's no way we can move these things around. Like there's no way we can customize our inventory slot. So I'm kind of thinking maybe there's a way to also move them, but also that adds just so much more complexity, right? So I don't know if I want to prioritize that, being able to move items, or if we want to just be able to swap it, because that would mean the order in which we get items, you would get first item, second item, third item, fourth item, fifth item. Those slots would, these slots would always be empty if we only have 5 items or whatever. So I think we probably ultimately want players to be able to kind of customize it if they wanted, like, oh, I actually really like whatever, the flask of water or whatever, that they can like leave it down here. I don't know. Maybe there is a set order to them, I don't know. But for now, we need 2 different tables. One for our item inventory, one for our key item inventory. And they each need like a starting X and Y position, as well as a height and width of how many columns and stuff. And then we need like a cursor to traverse the grid so that we can determine, the active slot we're kind of looking at. So the inventory class would have to have reference to the current cursor position also, so that if and when A is clicked, it'll check, hey, is there an item in that slot? If there is an item in that current slot, go ahead and equip it to button B. And if there was a thing in button B already, go ahead and place the button B thing in the current spot in your inventory system so that we can swap them out. So yeah, it at least needs that, X, Y, column, row, contents, as well as whether or not it's empty, whether or not it's something. What else? Don't exactly know. I have not done anything like this before in the past, so I mean the closest thing I've done is TAC, right, which is like a board game with like a grid system. So I've kind of done something like that. I guess let's try the first step of, let's try to get a board class or an inventory class, and that will hold a grid which has an X, a Y, a width, a height, and a column and row. And if we can get that pulled into our pause state, then we can work on a cursor so that we can navigate which item we're hovering over based on the grid's X and Y for all of its rows and columns. And if we can get that, that'll be a good start. So let's see if we can pull that out. Okay. So we're going to make a new class, and it's going to be a inventory class. Inventory.lua. Now we need to set an inventory object to be equal to empty class, and then we need our functions. So we have an init. I messed this up. Okay. Hey, what up, K-Tronics? How's it going, dude? For right now, let's just say that all our inventory does is a hello world so that we can see something. And we'll go ahead and set its color too so we can make sure we can see it. Okay, so we made our little inventory class. We need to go and import it into our game. Okay, and then in our pause state, we're going to say hey, I'm doing good. I had some family get together today, so I'm late to program and I'm house sitting, so just a little fried. But it's tough. Like if I wasn't streaming, I would have not programmed today. I mean, I program on my website today, so like my whole thing is like I just can't miss a day of programming, whether it be Tashio or web development stuff, just learning programming stuff. So I don't miss programming, but if I wasn't streaming, today would have been one of those days where I'm like, you know what, I already programmed. I can not work on Tashio today, but since I commit to streaming, I'm here. So even, you know, I would always tell myself just 5 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes, just sit down and do 5 minutes on your passion project or whatever. And if you're done after 5 minutes, you're done, but at least give it the 5 minutes. So what I'm stuck at here is like, where do we initialize our inventory object? Probably outside of the pause state, because it needs to be referenceable by our play state. It needs to be excuse me, I think it needs to be in our play state. Let's try it here. Let's give us a let's give us an inventory. I'll call it G inventory for global. And we will instantiate an inventory object like this. Let's see if we crash just by doing that. We don't. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, now that we have an inventory, I want to go ahead and render our inventory. Actually, if it's global here in our play state, we only want to render it in the pause state, right? So we're going to draw our mockup, and then we're going to also take our G inventory and go ahead and render it. And all the render is it should be a method render a nil value. We must have screwed up our class here. So where is our inventory? Oh. Oh no. Dummy me. Okay, update. We need update, and then we need render. Okay. So now, look at that. We got a Hello Ktronics. So Hello Ktronics is working. So that is the basis of our inventory class. So our inventory is rendering in our pause menu. So let's give us a couple of different values here. So like, let's say we have an X. It'll be a global or a constant. Let's say we have a Y. We also have we have like a total rows or something. The idea is we need to be able to track the X and Y of the grid that we're at. So we need a cursor row, cursor column, but also a row and column for each item. So we probably need to make another class of inventory items, and the inventory items take in an inventory row and column to apply to. So let's say that we have, let me see, how do we do this? We want a grid that has we could say, like, if we're 3 items wide, 4 items tall, and then we declare how wide each item is, so that we can render a rectangle of that big, and then when we go to render our cursor, we have to take in, how do we do this? Like a cursor. Let's say we wanted to hover it on the second item, so like right here. How do we render a cursor over this item right here? You know, we would have to say, okay, well, maybe there's a cursor object that has a X and Y of the current grid. So if this is, this is all rows would be first, so this would be 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the rows, and this would be 1, 2, and 3 on the columns. So we need to say, okay, a cursor at 1, 2, which would give us, since it's in the second column, it would give us a whole item's worth of width. So we need to define item width. We need to define an item height, and then I'm trying to think if we need other stuff than that, because as far as the inventory class is concerned, it doesn't really need to know. Let me think about this. I feel like we do need to make a different class, because it's like we need to make a class for items, and then probably I think we can get away. We don't need a class for cursor because there's one cursor, but there could be lots of different items that could have different sprites, different positions, different either equipped or not. So I think we need an items class that we pull into our inventory and say, this item has this picture and it's living at this grid. So maybe there's, and then we would need another table of our current equipped on both A and B, so that we know, hey, this thing can hold an item if it's in there, and then also if we hit A, it needs to swap the item that's in our equipped to our inventory grid. So let's just try to get a little something rendering here. We need an X and a Y. This is the X and a Y because we don't want the inventory to be at the very, very top left. We want to give it some buffer. So we'll say that the inventory doesn't necessarily have, like, the inventory might have a total amount of rows and a total amount of columns and a item size. so that we can say, okay, with an item size of 10, let's go ahead and since we're making 3 rows, we're actually making 4 rows and 3 columns, that we would say, okay, well, the total width would be the amount of columns. So it would be the self.columns times the item width. Item size, I guess, is what I have. Yeah, maybe. I think I want item width and item height. So the width of our inventory would be however many columns we have times however many items there are, times how wide the item is. Okay, and then our height is going to have however many rows we have times the item's height. So let's do something here where for right now, let's say an item width and height is 10, but let's also give, let's say 10, 10 on the X and Y. So just like a little offset. We'll go back. We'll put non-magic numbers here. We'll turn them into constants, but for right now, I just want to see. Gosh, sorry. I'm cat sitting, but I'm allergic to cats. So my nose is quite itchy. Okay. We also want a color. Now, how do we do this? I want to be able to say, let's get a random color. Yeah, I love cats. I really love cats, but I'm not like deathly allergic. It's just that when I pet them and then touch my face, I get not so great. Okay, I want, how do you do math.random? Okay, so I think what I want to do here, we want a global of all the colors, and then we want to just be able to index a random color so that we can see potential. Well, no, we don't exactly want this. Let's for right now, instead of, we'll keep hello Katron, but we'll do love.graphics set color, and we'll give ourselves a red that is slightly transparent. So 100, and then maybe like 120 out of 255 on the alpha. And then we want to render a rectangle right here, and it'll have a fill type. It'll have an X, a Y of our self X, self Y, and then a width of our self.width, and a height of our self.height. So let's see. We should be able to see. Oh, that sucks, dude. Hives. Sounds like awful. Item size. Oh, yeah. It's not item size, it's item width. Dang. That sucks, dude. I've never had hives, luckily. Look at that. What just... That is like the most ridiculous luck we've like... Or like... It looks like we are printing like this weird Tetronimo, but what's really happening is we just happen to give an X, a Y, and a width and a height of something that would perfectly cover the 2 squares that were in there. So let's say that the item height is actually something like 30, and the width, width is maybe something like 30, and the height is something like 40. Let's see that. Okay, there we go. So yeah, maybe 2 and 2 instead of, or maybe 5 and 5 instead of 10 and 10 for the X and Y. That looks good. And then we can shorten the height a bit. Oh no, I hate when that happens. The game will run behind the console, which is really annoying. Okay, we still are a little too tall. Oh god. It really bugs me. This is one of the reasons I really don't like Windows, is that shit will happen, and the only way to do it, well, I've never been able to fix it without doing anything before, so I guess I'm lucky. Let's say 25. Okay. Yeah, a little taller. So the idea... Yeah, this isn't what we need. What we do need is... We need our... Well... I don't know. I feel like our inventory... Okay, I'm starting to get a feel for what this should be. I think the inventory class needs to be the grid of a 2D array. It needs to be the 4 rows and 3 columns. And then each of those things can be an item instantiation, an item class that has what sprite of item it is, which grid in the inventory it's taking up, and then whether or not it's clicked, like, because our cursor would need to say, okay, well, our cursor location can also be on a given grid in our inventory. So I think our inventory needs to be a 2D array, and then that 2D array needs to be modified by the X and Y, as well as the item width and stuff. So let's maybe try to do that, and then we'll put a item class instantiation inside each grid of the inventory. So I think we need to do... We've got a rows and columns, so what we can do is in our init we can say for I gets 1 for as many of our rows we have. We would want to do... Actually, we want to do columns first. So we want to do... No. We do want to do rows. So do something a rows amount of times. In the rows amount of times, we want to do something a column amount of times. And the thing we want to do a column amount of times is just put a... we want to come into our constants here and just declare... I guess we can do it here, actually. Well, yeah, let's do it in our constants. We'll... I want to say we would do something here, like, say, inventory grid, I want to call it. And it's just an empty table. And we can say for every column, we're going to go ahead and put into our inventory grid at row I, but index column K, we want to assign into it an empty table that we can then insert default items for testing. And the items will have a render that says go ahead and render whatever item it is. And that's where we can do something like the random colors, where we can say instantiate an item color or an item object and place it into the inventory grid over here. So what else do we need? Like, the inventory class instantiation is in the init modifying this global inventory grid. But what does the inventory class need to do? The inventory class would hold a reference to the cursor, and it would update over time to check you know, if WASD is pressed or whatever, it would update the cursor. It also would render the cursor. So like, let's leave ourselves little notes here. Like this would like update cursor, and this would at some point render cursor. We also need items, which would have a sprite, see, this is tough. What would we do here? Because it's like when we move our, let's say we're moving our bag of seed from our inventory into our equipped slot, so our item slot. Gosh, my nose is just killing me. We would first, you know, if A is pressed, we would check where's the current cursor, check if there's an item in that grid that the cursor is living at. If there is an item, go ahead and remove that item from that inventory 2D array slot and go ahead and place that item into the equipped items slot. And before you do that, if there is a item in the equipped slot already, go ahead and remove it and copy it to where the item used to be, the item that we just clicked on. So swap it with the item, essentially. So in that scenario, we would, I don't know how we ensure that there's only one item inside the inventory grid, or how we ensure that there's only one of said item at any given time. So, oh man, dude, making a game is tough. Yeah, I'm not sure when we would do this. Because in my mind, it goes something like this, where we would say like, oh, if, oh God. We would say something like, if A is pressed, then we would want to check is item in current grid. So like the cursor is an item that holds reference to which row and column of the grid it's targeting. So like this I and K here, it knows which grid and which row and column, and then it'll render the cursor here, and we'll say, okay, well, if there's an item in the current grid, then is I guess we would do something like, if item in current grid, then if item in current slot, item in items slot. So I should probably call this inventory grid. And then we would see if there's an item in item slot. If there is an item in item slot, then we would want to table.remove current item. We'd probably want to store it first, though. We'd probably want to copy, see, and then what's the order of operations here? Because we need to take something out of the currently equipped slot, replace it with what used to be in the inventory slot, place the item that was in the equipped slot into the inventory slot. So what's the order for that, so we don't overwrite anything? We would have a copy into temp variable or something, Then we would table remove the current item. Then we would table.insert selected item. And then after that, we would then we'd have to place, we would take our temp variable, we would say like if temp variable or temp item, let's say if there's a temp variable, then we would want to go ahead and place temp into inventory grid. Okay, so this is it's gonna save what's in your equipped slot. It's gonna delete it. Then it's gonna insert what you clicked on. And then if there is a thing that we're being held into, we're gonna go ahead and place that temp into the old spot that you just clicked on. So whatever you currently had equipped will go to where your cursor was upon a click, and you'll swap out with whatever you clicked on. That sounds about right. Okay. Well, we've got some pseudocode for it. I don't have much energy to do much more than this tonight, but we'll call it a night. And get more good work done on it tomorrow. I'm also gonna be spending a lot of time tomorrow editing the video for the interview, so hopefully that'll be coming out in the next couple days. I'm hoping I can focus on that tomorrow. I'm gonna say that we add inventory class and have I hope you like it, K-Tronics. I mean, we'll see. I'll probably live stream it. I'm hoping, it was like an hour interview. I'm hoping to maybe cut some 15 minutes out of it, maybe, just to tighten it up a bit. But Craig is a super cool guy, and he's like wild engineer, like super talented, hardworking, complex engineer. So hopefully it is interesting to people other than me, because it's like a really niche game, but that kind of gets me excited about it, because we both tried to make the same game, and of course his is just like, he's been working on his like 10 years, so his is phenomenal. So I'm happy to show off what he's done, and hopefully it's like an excuse or a proof of concept for the interview series that I want to do, because I think what's really, really cool is this guy, like, and this project that we talk about in this first episode, that project is the project that I wanted to start the interview series for. It's wild that he's the first guest, because I was thinking I was going to have to work up, get a couple established guests before I could reach out and say, hey, I like to interview people, developers on my channel, or would you have any interest? And I just on a whim like reached out, and he got back to me. So he's like the reason I wanted to start to do it. So it's really cool that he agreed to come on. So I'm really happy about it. I hope everyone can find some interest in it, or at least some insight. But we'll see. I've got good hopes for it. I'm just hoping I can polish, make the video look nice and kind of feel nice, because it is just two people kind of talking over code. So I'm hoping, I mean, that's all this stream is, so I guess, yeah, it'll be good. Added inventory class. That's all we did. We did change our mockup, our pause mockup. And thank you for the good luck on the itchy face. It is itchy. But yeah, I'm thinking once I have it exported, I'll probably schedule a live stream time for it. I don't know when or what time that'll be, but I'll schedule so that it'll be streaming on Twitch, not live, but it'll be streaming as if it were live. And then I'll post it on the YouTube channel too. So it'll live there, but I think it'd be cool to do a stream of it so that people can come in. What are you talking about? Are you talking about the Pokemon? Oh, Practical came out. Oh, dude, that's sick. That's awesome. Yeah, dude, Practical is such a cool dude. Did he come in on your Pokemon stream at some point? Or in your WoW? Nice. That's cool. He's such a nice dude. Okay, I think we're good. We committed, we pushed, we added our inventory class. Okay, so tomorrow we're gonna be. I'll do some more thinking about this because I think we're on the right track of like there's gonna be an item class and it has what sprite the item is. It has an index for which row and column of our inventory grid we want to render it at. Because ideally we don't hard code that stuff in so that we can resize our grid and or change the amount of rows or columns we have for it. As well as when we go to add the cursor, we want to make sure that our cursor isn't going by any hard coded values, but that we're going by how many rows and columns are in our inventory. So that's what we'll be doing tomorrow. And then we'll work on hey, sorry, I just do not have the bandwidth to do any sort of game dev stuff for other people. I'm trying to get this game out in the next year and a half. So that and working full time, I just don't have the bandwidth. But hey, I wish you good luck getting something made, Soul Man. Yeah. Sorry, dude. I'm swamped. I hardly have time to stream every night. I mean, I make time to stream every night, but yeah, I'll need to take a break here soon too. I feel like I'm just getting a little stretched too thin. But hey, let's thanks for watching, everyone. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll raid out. We'll hit up you know what? We've got a channel friend, Prosto. We'll just raid him because he is a cool dude. And he is also doing Lua development. I hope he's doing it right now so we can raid him. But have a good night, everyone. I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Prosto disabled raids. I'll have to raid out to Hypnotics. I love raiding out to him, but we've been raiding him a lot lately. I was hoping to hit up Prosto, but here we go. All right, have a good night, all.